Former Vice President of Nigeria, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, joins me now exclusively in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles.
And not only did you agree to do the interview, you insisted on coming to the studio to do it. So we appreciate that very much. Now, you've been a central figure in Nigerian politics for decades, and by the time the election comes around in 2027, you'll be 80. Respectfully, I mean, this may be your last realistic shot at the presidency. Does that make the stakes higher for you this time?
Certainly, yes. Because the stakes are higher because I believe that will be my last outing. And
so that's incontrovertibly
that's incontrovertible.
Fact.
Okay. Yes.
Right. So beyond the fact that you have said conclusively that that'll be your last outing, why should Nigerians take that gamble on you now? Why should they believe that you represent the future and not the past?
I represent both the past and the future. Simply because we have seen various levels of leadership in the country, both young and old, and we're experiencing them. And I still believe that our expectations of the young leadership is below what we thought. And we believe, I personally believe, they require experience and they require tutelage from the older generation.
Yeah, but you don't have to be in power to give them that tutelage.
Sometimes you need to be.
I mean, you could be doing it now.
Yeah, sometimes you need to be, because what I was able to learn from President Obasanjo through his experience, I couldn't have learned it outside.
Right. But critics say you represent the same political establishment Nigerians are increasingly frustrated with. I mean, why should they trust you to deliver something different?
But look at it. Look at, the political experience. It's been a mixed one. We have had so many young governors in a number of states who have failed woefully, when it comes to governance, Charles. And I believe those type of people still require tutelage, still require to learn from experience. Believe me, I don't think I could have learned, if I were a president, what I have learned, under being vice president to president, because he came with tremendous experience from a military head of state and now to a civilian president. There was a lot I learned.
But I wonder if the real challenge for you, Mr. Vice President, is not just defeating the incumbent, Bola Tinubu, but convincing Nigerians that you are not more of the same. I mean, I know I'm banging on a bit about that, but why should they take the risk of choosing you now after so many previous attempts?
Well, there is a clear and stark difference. Take the cases of the state governors in a number of states being headed by relatively young people and failing woefully simply because at the apex they did not have a capable and experienced president to guide them and to, of course, give them the benefit of his experience. And that's why we have been having a number of very, very woeful leadership at a number of states, because they are being headed by inexperienced young men. Young men also require experience to be able to succeed.
But is it an individual thing or a systemic thing?
I think, to me, I will describe it as a systematic issue, because we have had more failures in states than we even had at the federal level.
Because I'm wondering whether you're saying that the system only became broken when you were no longer in power.
Not necessarily, but when we did not have capable presidents with experience at the helm of affairs.
And when was that? I mean, everybody, to be fair, recognizes the time that you and Obasanjo were in office as a sort of golden era.
That's right.
After sort of the return to democracy. But what other time after that are you talking about?
For instance, let's take the era of after Umaru Yar'Adua, who started very well and was succeeded by Jonathan Goodluck. I know Jonathan Goodluck very well, a decent young man, but also inexperienced. That, I believe, attributed, to his failure to manage affairs of the country, particularly when he was faced with challenges. So these are the type of things that we, in fact, what I would like to see is real leadership training of our upcoming and young generation politicians. I wish I could introduce a leadership training.
Well, you could.
Yeah.
I mean, you own a university. I mean, you could start a leadership institute.
Yes. We need it. We need it in this country.
But it hasn't occurred to you all this time that that's something you ought to do?
Well, the university is an independent body.
Right.
It's a growing institution. It's a little over 20 years now. And of course, not that it hasn't produced very, very exceptional products. I have met their products all over the world, and I was astonished to see them. But then, as you know, universities are a developing institutions, so maybe in due course they should be able to do that.
Yeah, obviously you can start a leadership institute independent of the university. But you are now aligned with the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, at a time when the party is facing legal battles as well as internal disputes. Do you believe that your presence on the ADC is building a viable platform, or are you joining a coalition that's already under terrible strain?
Charles, I must be frank with you. I am one of the initiators of this coalition, or perhaps the leading, initiator of the coalition, because I remember when the PDP lost the last election, I addressed the party. I said, I don't see a future for PDP unless there is a coalition, or a broad-based coalition or alliance. And the PDP leadership disagreed with me at that point in time.
What made you say that?
I said it because I studied, the political history of Nigeria, and I saw how alliances worked in the First Republic, in the Second Republic. I mean, so it is not difficult for one to, to predict or to explain, to what I will say, students of, because I consider those young politicians as future leaders of Nigeria. So it's my responsibility to point out to them. And I pointed out to them that the only future for PDP is in broad coalition. And they disagreed with me. And the reason why they disagreed with me was simple. Simply because they didn't want to see my face. Not what I was proposing. And now they have found themselves in the same position.
Yeah, but what I'm wondering is, what was it that made you say that the future of the PDP was only in the coalition, having yourself been a presidential candidate of the party?
I studied the political history of Nigeria.
No, I know, but that's a broad thing. I'm talking about specifically. What is it? What did you see in the PDP that there was a warning sign for you?
Because there was a decline in the popularity of PDP, and the states they were winning. So there was a decline. There was no way, they could have won on their own without, a coalition.
Was there the nettlesome factor of Nyesom Wike there?
Well, I mean, in fact, more or less it was like a kind of gang up.
Gang up against you?
Possibly,
against the party?
Possibly against the party, or based on their individual ambitions.
Right. Now, you're in the ADC coalition, as we said. I mean, is the coalition driven by a shared vision. And I'm coming off the back of what you just said about what happened in the PDP. And you've been in several political parties, including the APC. So you've got a very good sense of how parties come together and what makes them fall apart.
Yeah.
Is this coalition of the ADC driven by a shared vision or simply a shared determination to remove Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Let me say both, because Bola has been a very bad president, to be honest with you.
How so?
Because I didn't expect that from him, you know, in the way he governs the country, whether economically or otherwise. It's a disappointment.
Right. Well, I'm going to return to that issue in a minute, because that's obviously important. But if the ADC is about vision, which you suggest that it is, can you clearly state what unites you beyond opposing the incumbent?
Well, a number of things unite us. For instance, the issue of deepening our democratic institutions and the issue of separation of powers under the Constitution. We feel very, very concerned about that. We have seen how virtually, you know, a presidency has almost turned the various institutions that are supposed to be checks and balances, you know, under one roof, which is quite dangerous.
Right. Okay, you've run for president now, as we said, multiple times. Some have called you a perennial contender. I'm sure you've heard that yourself a number of times. And you are aiming to run again in 2027. What, if anything, makes this attempt different from the others?
Different in what way, Charles?
Well, that's why I'm asking you that question. What makes it different from the other times that you've run?
What makes it different from the other times is that you have a more broader coalition now. You have elements from APC, from PDP, from NMPP, from Labour. That makes it a much broader, you know, coalition than what even happened in the past before. Yeah.
But for you personally?
For me personally, I see a lot of future, because within the broad coalition, you see people of my generation, you see people below my own generation, and, you know, down the line. So you can see clear, you know, succession, you know, pattern emerging. Yes.
Wasn't that the same thing that happened in what was the APC coalition?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I didn't see it in the APC coalition. You know, I left the APC quite early. Once I realized that they are going the wrong way, I left.
Some would say once you realize that your political ambition wouldn't be achieved.
Not about that. It wasn't about the personal ambition at all. No, absolutely not.
So what was it about?
Quite a number of things. I mean, of course, you are dragging me to, you know, start going into the administration of late President Buhari, and I wouldn't want to do that because he's late.
Right. Okay, understood. Let's return to the ADC, which is the matter of the moment. If a consensus candidate emerges within the ADC coalition, would you step aside in the interest of unity?
No, it's not the issue of stepping aside, but would I support?
Right.
I think what would I say in the coalition is that we will, the first option will be to work out a consensus. If that doesn't, of course, emerge, then we go for direct president. I mean, I will support anybody who emerges. Right.
So either a consensus candidate, and that's the first option.
Yes, that's the first option as far as the party is concerned. We will aim at consensus. If we don't get it, then we go for elections.
Right. That sounds like something that will be terribly disputatious.
I don't expect we will get to that level because we are dealing with really mature politicians and experienced politicians as well.
But you're also dealing with people with huge political ambitions.
Ambition, well, that's a different thing altogether. But we have all agreed that this is the way to save democracy in this country.
You now, of course, share that political space with figures like Peter Obi, Rabiu Kwankwaso, Rotimi Amechi, Nasir El-Rufai, Aminu Tambuwal, and a host of others. I mean, some would say that this is not a partnership, this is a rivalry waiting to happen. Because if you ask many Nigerians, their concern is that this might collapse under the weight of competing ambitions.
Charles, clearly you can see that there is a generational progression there. So, I mean, if people of my generation don't get it, the people who may get it next may be the next generation. I mean, clearly you can see a generational structure there, and it's deliberate.
Right. If it comes down to one ticket, which ultimately it'll come down to, will you step aside for somebody
like... There is no question of stepping aside.
What I'm asking, I want to ask you a direct question now. If it comes down to that single ticket, will you step aside for Peter Obi, for example, if he's more popular? Yes or no?
I will step aside for any winner.
Right.
Yeah.
Including Peter Obi.
Of course, if he is a contender, why not?
I mean,